listening to Changing Reality. Changing Reality, where we bend reality all across the world. Only on WQHS Radio. So hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Changing Reality. Welcome one, welcome all. If this is your first time tuning in, where have you been all this time? Don't you know that this is the place to be, where we share the most amazing stories from individuals from all across the world who are in essence changing their own reality. Now, if you are a returning viewer, first of all, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate each and every single one of you and enjoy your company as we have these conversations. Though you might realize that something's a little different today, we're actually having another one of our famous in-person sessions. So today we're actually, streaming from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, with a very special guest, Omid, who comes all the way from Italy to join us here today. He's a fabulous social entrepreneur. He's someone that we have known actually for the last 2-3 years through our social impact journey. So I myself am your host. My name is Harsha. I am a social entrepreneur too. Other than being a junior at the University of Pennsylvania, I actually run Ascendance, where I serve as CEO and one of the co-founders. We work with over 50,000 students across 26 countries to help discover what it is they love doing, go out there, get real-world experiential learning opportunities, and incubate their own projects and businesses. We've been fortunate to incubate countless number of student-run social enterprises for kids as young as 8 to 25, and at the same time have been fortunate to be able to work with organizations from Fortune 500s, Ivy Leagues, global nonprofits to mobilize and democratize social impact and entrepreneurship learning to the masses. And it was through that work that I first met Omid. I think when we met, it was during the pandemic. He's the founder of two amazing nonprofits, AidU and Newhopeu. He also serves in a capacity right now as an advisor to UNESCO, youth advisor to UNESCO, where he advises on policy relating to SDG4, sustainable quality education. And very interestingly enough, he has recently become an assembly member at Rivet, if I got it right. And at the same time is doing his master's degree at Tsinghua University, focusing on entrepreneurship in China. He's based out of Beijing currently, which is why he's here in Southeast Asia, because it's too near a trip for him not to miss. So welcome, Omid. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling wonderful and peaceful coming here in person at Ascendance after 2 or 3 years that we met online with your events. And it's an important reminder of all the great change-making activities you do every single day. And now it's physical and it's around me.
Oh, that's amazing, Omid. And I don't think anyone's ever described meeting Ascendance as peaceful, so I appreciate you being the first and, hopefully not the last to give us that accolade. But Omid, you're actually a fellow Diana Award winner for the work that you do, and you've been an inspiration. I think we were just joking about this. You are now 24, which is way too young for all the achievements that you've had. But at the same time, previously started your social impact journey when you were 15, right?
Yes, exactly. I was at 15, I started from a middle-sized city in Tuscany, Italy. As you can imagine, it has been pretty challenging because you're expected to follow a specific path, which is studying or following certain traditions that I didn't want to stick to. And the way I started is it's almost like a natural process. I didn't know what exactly I was going through, but I knew that something bad happened a few weeks before, and my best friend's father died due to heart failure, and I was trying to find my answers within the school books, what was known, and therefore I said I want to take a moment and step back a moment and ask why this is happening. Why are we even accepting this? Why are we accepting that in my city? In that moment I was really thinking in a very, very small terms. My city, this is happening and it's normal. And I started to research by myself about cardiovascular diseases and going to cardiologists, doctors, public health practitioners for the next 6 months to 12 months. And that opened me a huge space where I started to understand maybe I want to do a solution related to cardiovascular diseases. And the problem was that I didn't have anyone else to collaborate with, and that's how I ended up online in a platform that previously was Google Science Fair. And I said I had this research, I have these skills, I knew a bit how to code on Android Studio. I want to have someone that maybe knows about hardware, and that's how I met my first co-founder based in Kampala, Uganda. So not even same region, not even same country, a different continent, but we had the exact same story. We have nothing to lose because we had the trust that we would commit to solve this mission and this issue because we had a very similar story. And we are young, so that's advantage. I mean, I hope I'm still young.
You are still young.
We had an advantage of asking almost stupid questions to doctors, cardiologists. We go there, the first question that I had in my paper was, what is cardiology? And the doctor said, like, you can just look at it online, but I want to know from you. So it was a very interesting process. And I didn't know what social entrepreneurship was. I didn't know how to pronounce the word entrepreneurship as well. And so after maybe 1 year, 1.5 years, then I understood what I was doing. What is the ecosystem around myself as well.
No, I think that's an amazing, introduction to entrepreneurship. You literally had the trial by fire, you were out there, you learned. And I think we were just sharing a joke that I truly believe that some of the best entrepreneurs, specifically social entrepreneurs, are those who don't even know what social entrepreneurship is when they start out, because they are focused mostly on solving the issue and not necessarily, all the other ecosystem and, thoughts and noise that sometimes come with it. I myself joke that I still don't know how to spell entrepreneur. If a gun to my head, I may get nervous and get the vowels wrong, right? But I truly admire, your courage of not just, going out there, finding research, getting answers to questions, but also finding other young people to work with, to get started with. A lot of people, they have these events that happen in their life, but they don't know where to turn. They get, information, they get knowledge and so on. How did you go about turning the information that you got into an actual solution in your community or something that could educate other people? What was the first few steps that you looked at?
Yeah, so the first few steps were, this part of the challenge that I had was almost interacting very well with the problem, but I was not interacting very well with people that could support me. And so the first step that I did was really looking at researchers and people that actually are affected by this problem. However, I did not develop a solution that is tailored to them at the beginning. I had this informational gap. But the first step was, we are living in countries where it's very hard for young people to create change, especially at 15. Therefore, you need to find strategies to build trust, build a structure that can allow you to go to the leadership of a health organization or a school to say, look, I have the skills, I have this, and I want to do this. Therefore, the first step were looking at funding streams, and we found an online platform where we applied for mini grants, and which I also didn't know the meaning at that time. But I knew they were giving some money, and that's how I got started. By looking at the ecosystem, understanding the ecosystem was the first step I did. Locating yourself as a social entrepreneur within an online or in-person ecosystem, especially online if there is no in-person ecosystem, it's very crucial, and that's how I move forward with the funding stream. But at the same time, allies is the most important. People that believe in you should be onboarded as fast as possible, and that's how also the founder of this organization was and still is a great mentor, and at the same time friends and senior people at the health levels, or other entrepreneurs that I would meet in the conferences within Tuscany or within Italy. That would be the step to take in that time to understand better myself, understand better the solution, understand better the problem, and also how I can move forward later on.
Yeah, I love how actionable that answer is. So basically, you're like, okay, you have to get all of this checklist in a sense. No, I appreciate it because I think it's so good for people who want to start things out. Like, you have to do your research, you have to map the ecosystem, get the funding, get the allies, get the friends.
Yeah, and there's no set up checklist. Everyone can have so many different types of checklists. At least that what worked, and at the beginning, a few years ago, yeah.
No, amazing. And I like how you mentioned, you're going to conferences, you're going to, meeting these organizations. So once you have kind of gathered, I think the word you used when we were chatting was like a package of information. You're saying, okay, I have the buy-in of this organization, I have this research, I have this grant in a sense. You still have to go there and convince, a lot of times senior people to be able to take the work you're doing seriously. So whether that's, school administrators or whether that's organizations themselves, many times, at least, what we face in the initial stages is people are like, oh, you're kids. Like, how do we know if, we can work with you? How do we know that you are taking this organization seriously? In hindsight, I hope we've proved both of, the naysayers wrong on all cases. But in that moment when you are experiencing, not the best feedback from a lot of the senior people at times, how do you kind of orientate yourself to be able to still push forward and to be able to convince them? What do you think made you stand out as a 15-year-old in the room that got them to say yes, all right, let's at least try this new organization that Omid's bringing to us?
Yeah, as we were talking about it before, is the package. As I said, it's the first step that I try to do is, if there's nothing to get right now in this place, let me get something else from where I can get it the fastest or the easiest, and then come back to them later. So the first thing is I wanted to get to know what they want. I cannot change my age. That's age.
Yeah.
But I can give something else that they may look for, and they look for someone that already funded before, or a sort of recognition that you get. Even better if it's international recognition. Therefore, the way to do it is do it as cheap as you can to run an organization and create a small impact, medium impact in your community, wherever you can, because that's real data that you can use for applying for external grants or international grants. And that's what I did, doing small steps, like not only providing a proposal that is written, but also let me also code the app, and the app came out, and let me also coordinate with my co-founder to create the hardware, and we created the first ECG to monitor cardiovascular diseases and cardiovascular activities. And even if the prototype is not perfect or is not looking good, because it was pretty ugly at the beginning,
as all prototypes should be,
you had something, and then you try to do a bit of an impact as you can, close by, where you can. And then I try to communicate, send emails, and connect with so many types of foundations and funders, and that he didn't want yes at the end, after like hundreds of no's. And what kept me grounded and motivated was the people I was taking care of, the people that are affected by the issue. And I think the advantage of the team, as I said before, we had one story, we had nothing to lose, we had something that was inside us that wanted to be released towards this social entrepreneurship sphere. Therefore, we had this this idea of, we are not going to lose our project just because we are going to lose the money or we're going to lose the support, because we personally want to solve this, and that's what makes us go through the challenges and barriers. I think it's a lot of a mindset and stepping back for a second or a few days or a few hours to remember why did you start, and repeat it as well to yourself.
No, I think that's very important. There's many times which I get very demotivated by a lot of no's, back then and still now. And I remember one time I was having a coffee with one of my co-founders, and she said, well, don't you see the impact of what happens? Like, because you don't see the impact, or you don't kind of absorb the impact, you don't have the energy to keep going. You don't see why it's important. And I think that was such amazing advice that, even just kind of seeing the ripple effects of what you're doing in any stage, to actually, again, remember the end user, for lack of a better word, remember the last person who you are actually creating that impact for, can go such a long way and such a far way, just keeping us going. You very quickly went from, somebody who was, mapping out the ecosystem of social entrepreneurship when you first started, to someone who was building an ecosystem with your next nonprofit, which was Newhopeu. What was the inspiration behind, coming up with this idea? I know it happened during the pandemic with many good and bad things all packaged in one around the world. So what was kind of, the inspiration behind it, and how did you go about it?
Yeah, it's definitely connected to EDU as well. Because once I met a person for a lunch in Rome, and this person was coming from the US, and I convinced, at that time I was 17, 18, I tried to convince my parents, oh, can you bring me to Rome, because this person is very cool, and I want to tell them my project. And then I ended up going to be invited from this person to go for a fundraising effort for social entrepreneurs in Dubai, right 4 or 5 months afterwards, and that's when I understood that there is something called ecosystem that is larger than what I thought. As I said before, I was thinking as the city level, country level, a bit international level, but not like extremely global level. And I was there, and I met at that time the UNESCO Youth Envoy on Education, and we were discussing about these topics. They were more like macro. As you know, the education is the one that most of the young people have experience with as well, because they're the first stakeholders. Yeah. And I had a different conversation. Said, like, yeah, you keep complaining that you have a hard time being a social entrepreneur within the education system. So why don't you step back and also try to address the system, the education system itself? And that made me think totally different about the world. Like, yeah, I shouldn't like try to work on the sidelines of the problem. I should work towards what I believe in, but also try to influence the system.
Yeah, and that's how change it from within. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I understood. What is policy? Understood what is education systems, and during COVID it was an opportunity where after my experience, I got a fellowship with the U.S. Department of State for a month and a half. I was in Tennessee to learn about social entrepreneurship ecosystems. After coming back, also after the experience, I understood a bit more that ecosystem matters a lot, and we didn't have. I had a lot of online experience for creating ventures. I said, why don't we create a platform that actually leverages on the online experience, and also tries to create an ecosystem where people can learn about issues and solutions about SDGs on a very organized way. We created software, we created the team, which is global, and we brought together people who were online already, and there was a bit less effort in bringing them online and committing to a few hours of brainstorming sessions on SDG2, SDG3, SDG4, and other ones, and that's how we created this international platform, and we created a social innovation festival where people from all around the world were discussing problem trees. The problem is very similar all across the world, and we might benefit from other sides and point of views around the world, and that speeded up the process. And we also collected a lot of solutions that already existing around the world, and trying to re-engineer them, and help young people to develop these kind of projects within Europe and within the world as well. Because there was a chance that I didn't have when I was 15. I wanted to give it to someone, someone that, oh, the chance can be connected to this platform and understanding something else other than the actual academics that you're learning. So that's something that kept me going as well.
No, it's something that I think is personal to a lot of young entrepreneurs, because we live kind of like a double life, you're both the entrepreneur, the rock star, and then you're also the student that has to do the test and so on. So I think like any initiatives to kind of, make that easier, make that kind of, provide the resources, the connections, the opportunities for other young people to not only survive through that, but thrive off it, to, as you said, kind of bring two worlds together is so important to me. And I think, young people everywhere want to serve, they want to change the world, they want to do things, and we need to provide the resources to bring them together so that what they do is actionable and actually has a chance of solving all these global issues that, currently plague us. Talking about, your role in, advising to UNESCO and advising specifically on quality education. What do you think, like, I really like how you mentioned, you started off with this kind of perspective of your town, and then now you have, like, in that capacity, governments, countries, that kind of perspective of how education looks like. What do you think was the most shocking thing when you first, started looking at the macro level of policy and education that you did not expect, in a sense? Because, like, I think we sit in our classrooms anywhere around the world, there's probably a kid right now thinking, I could fix this education system, right?
Yeah.
So what, like, did you go, oh my gosh, I never thought about this. What was that one moment you had when you first started looking at this from the macro level?
That's very interesting question. A bit hard to say what exactly is so shocking. Many things very shocking.
I can imagine.
But in also a positive way, for sure. And I think that whatever decision or thoughts that young people may have or may bring in the conversations at the policy level, they are yet not considered as decision supporters, but more like advice or thoughts to think about. And I thought that there was a more embedded and more transformative process that young people, I was thinking, oh, I have this, entrepreneurship is more like, I do this and then this happens. While in policy, I do this and then there are 100 ways that it can go because it depends on tons of people around you. Therefore, the shocking, because maybe also, of course, that was my first experience, was that your thought of fast change should not actually exist within the policy level, because you need to convince so many different stakeholders, and I didn't really think about how many there are. I was always thinking, oh, I'm thinking globally, I'm thinking internationally, but I never thought about how many tiny, big, medium stakeholders there are to talk to, from artists to governments to writers, poets, teachers, advocates. All of them are part of a huge process of change making at the policy level. It's really about speaking up and talking and storytelling, and at the same time, while I said change doesn't happen fast, but at the same time, I was beginning critical about the process. However, I understood well that the storytelling, it's most of advocacy in the policy level, at UNESCO level, and especially young people. Every single young person can be an advisor of a policy structure because they have a first-hand experience in education. Therefore, that's how we reach out with the consultations with 400 million people, because everyone can have a say. Then the way you create the say, you model it, and you tell it, and you influence the policy, that's a totally different story, and that takes time, and it can take also a bit of frustration as well sometimes. So these are the few things that I had in mind.
One of the things that I often hear with a lot of young people who want to make change or who are making change is there's often a misconception, I feel, but when I speak to some people who are, a little bit in the senior level in kind of the foundations, in the circuit of, change making at that capacity, is that when they look at young people, they see, a type of young person that is very good at storytelling, but maybe doesn't have all the facts 100% of the time. Though I agree that there's no way we'll know everything that they know, I do think that there's also a kind of alternate young person who is very grassroots, very driven, very much working in their communities at the micro level that don't have the storytelling skill to actually articulate it. So they have the facts, they have the information, but they don't know how to present it. And then you have people who know how to present it, but maybe they don't have that grassroots exposure. You have a bit of both in it. Did the storytelling come naturally to you? And if not, what can people do if they are caught in one of those either extremes? If somebody is purely a storyteller, what do they do to kind of, get some grassroots experience? And if someone is purely at the grassroots level, what can they be doing a little bit differently to gain that storytelling experience? Because we need to get that combination right. So how did you do it, and what's your advice for either group?
Yeah, definitely. That's very interesting. Because yeah, we need both. But I also agree that if you're really strength and way of working in storytelling, you should keep doing it. You don't really need to go through the grassroots level. But I believe that to have a strong storytelling, all the storytellers must have a very grounded approach. Understanding the issues, understanding the people around the problem is extremely important. So to storytellers, I would say, if the story really relies on your personal story, try to make it relatable as many people as possible. In the fact of partner or connect with organizations that are already present in your area, and constantly ask them questions, update your story, increase your story, augment your story. And that means also questioning what changed in the storytelling. Because what happens that sometimes there are storytellers that are having stories based on even a few years or in the past that are sometimes are not any more relatable to certain target groups. Therefore, it's not as effective as it should be. Therefore, staying grounded and staying updated and talking to, if you're not starting your own, you didn't start any your own thing, or you're part of a project, at least stay on the sidelines, talk to them, get advice, interact with the stories. While I believe that a huge majority does have tons of experience around the world in creating change, but it's yet they find hard to tell the stories. And while, for example, in policy making, but also in fundraising, it's a lot of storytelling. This creates a huge barrier, and I think to create a great storytelling, if you really had a great experience in creating an organization, it's really thinking about what exactly made you start doing this. So sometimes it might be hard to find the words, but when it comes to your personal story, you might have the words already, and you shouldn't be afraid of asking for help. The way I developed my storytelling skills is that I was trying to ask myself, why did I start? Not only once, every single day. Not for a year, for multiple years. And my story improves, change, modifies very often. But the content is the same, but the wording is slightly different. I don't know if it's improving or not improving, but I'm trying to find my fit, my style. And I think finding your style, finding your wording, and finding your story are three ways to create a storytelling approach. And if you don't have your own story, ask the people, how did I impact you? What changed in your life? The stories can come from the people you're impacting as well.
And I think experience and these stories can sometimes feel very intangible. There's not enough words for it.
Yeah.
So I feel like as we continuously refine the story, you find the vocabulary and the style and the words to describe an intangible impact and feeling, and kind of bring it into the tangible world. You kind of shape it from marble, for lack of a better reference. So I think it's definitely something that I really admire, how people be able to craft that. Because I think, as you said, it's not something easy to do, but with those few steps, constantly years working on it and shaping away at it, hopefully we can create, a narrative that does justice to the experiences that us and the people that we've impacted face on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I focus a lot in a natural process, but you can reach out to organization. Like if I would be here, I would reach out to Ascendance and can you tell me more? How can I improve as a social entrepreneur? So yeah, there are organized programs for that as well.
No, true. And also, one of the things that you've been very successful at doing is kind of putting yourself out there and being able to share your thoughts, being able to get people to hear the work you do, hear the impact that you've done in a sense. How do people do that? Because a lot of time, people's resources are confined to as far as they can Google, and they're not very good at Googling, if I can if I can speak for a few people I know. And at the same time, the people that they know, which not everyone starts off with a network of people that, can support them and so on. How did you go about, building your own personal network, your own personal ecosystem, and putting yourself in opportunities to explore, to try new things, to get new experiences, and just kind of break out of your shell?
That's the network. It's what drove most of my activities and work and impact. I would say I dedicate at work, when I was also studying my organization, at least 50% of the time was dedicated also to networking, and which is a lot. But also the other 50% was the organization, and you can imagine how many hours they were.
You just work a lot, right? It's
So
not
that's
like,
why 50-50
yeah,
still
that's
work.
fair. Yeah, you can, if you work like 24 hours a day, 50-50 is a lot for both. You got it.
So there's still a lot, and it's a mix of things, because for networking it's also about trust and personal connection. Therefore, you need a bit of everything in the puzzle. You need a bit of, the organization has to have been running for a bit. Like for a bit, it means at least start it. Like for like a few weeks, if you want, a few months. That you have one thing or two things that if someone asks you, what brings you here, or what makes you excited to solve, you have something, one or two things that you can tell, you can give. Most of the networking I did is giving. I want to give a youth perspective about this issue. I'm not asking first. I'm never asking first, because to create trust, I have been trying to develop, this organization and this way of framing my story. So a lot of storytelling as well, but also having a strategy is important. So where I will go for networking will be at the beginning some conferences about cardiology and some cardiologist gatherings, and then maybe some startup gatherings with some new social entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs as well. And the advice I gave myself was, don't stick to your industry as well. It's not that I want only to network with social entrepreneurs. I want also entrepreneurs, because the way they think, the way they design approaches or solutions might matter for also social causes. And the way also artists they create things, it's also an inspiration for being an entrepreneur. Therefore, you need a strategy on who you want to meet and where to meet. And the advantage is that many things are online. You don't need to Google complex things other than a keyword and online event. And what I do is always this call. I know that these people are here for almost a similar reason to me. Therefore, I already have a thing in common. Because sometimes there's an issue is that I don't reach out because I don't think I have in common something. But if you really want to network, the reason why we are in the same room, we have something in common, at least one thing in common. Of course, the physical place, but also at least the topic. Therefore, it's already enough to reach out. Therefore, I would screenshot all the Zoom page and reach out to every single person. I say, look, I was there, and I have this passion, I have this project. I know that you're here because you're interested about that. Tell me about your story. The most common question I ask is, tell me about your story. People love to talk about themselves. So let them talk about themselves.
No, that's very, very good advice. And, I know you said that, you do 50% work, 50% networking. But networking also, the way you do it, is a lot of hard work and it's a lot of effort. And I feel like a lot of people think, I just show up, I talk. That's networking. But it's a lot of thoughtfulness, it's a lot of care, love, and also, as you said, effort in actually being willing to reach out, being able to, make those connections and so on.
And most importantly, keep the connection. Because it's not a network if you reach out to the network every 2 years. Send updates, send follow-ups, catch up again, because people, I tend to see that people tend to leave if you don't keep them within your ecosystem. It's very important that they are, you are in their mind, and and you show that you care about their work. Of course, it should be genuine. I mean, you really need, I mean, if you're probably in your network, probably they are part of your way of seeing the world. Therefore, nurturing and cultivating the connection is almost more important than actually reaching out sometimes, because things can get easily apart slowly with time if you don't reach out for 5 years or 2 years. If you need something, or if you want to get support, it's easier to get it if you keep in touch every year rather than every 5 years, right? Because people really care about the personal connection as well, not only the professional I give, I take process.
No, that makes lots of sense. And again, it's just honestly, I think being genuine and being, like, intentional and remembering the people that you genuinely want to connect with and you genuinely feel you have shared goals with. So I appreciate that. And tell us a little bit about your current work at Rivet. I know you have a very interesting story behind the whole concept of the work and how you got there as well. And it's very Gen Z focused. It's very focused on kind of creating social good, and it's a social enterprise as I've ever seen it. So tell us a little bit about your new role and what you're doing there as well.
Yeah, it's a new perspective and a new role that I'm part of, because as I said, assembly member, it's basically board members for young people, but it coexists with the actual board in the company. Therefore, it's a very interesting model because young people actually have a say in the decisions within the organization. And myself, I have noticed, and we have noticed also, I mean, you also through your work, that a lot of social entrepreneurs struggle to get funding. They have sometimes unstructured financial sustainability, and there is out there in the world, at the end of the day, there is a lot of financial transactions that are happening every single day, every single year. And there is 3 trillion worth of purchasing power that young people have every single year. They buy things for school, they buy things for sports, they buy things for
merch,
merch, anything. And they love to shop and buy things that are valuable in terms of social value, sustainability value, mission value, and therefore, and the brand, they know this. The brands know that young people care about this, but not necessarily all the brands might have the channels to actually support social causes. I mean, of course, there are the CSR programs and everything. However, what we design at Rivet, what I advise at Rivet is about this model, which is called a micro-funding engine that connects the purchasing power of young people, where they actually buy things, and channel it to youth-led innovations around the world, where there are capital deserts, where there is no access to capital. And brands get impact stories from us. So they get stories that are of this person that is working sanitation in water sanitation, or in health, med tech, and brands amplify these stories, while young people are more happy to buy certain products because they are directly funding almost the same age person somewhere else in the world is working for a better world.
Shopping for good, yeah, as you said.
It's a rounded model that has been working so far within the US ecosystem, but has been implemented and delivered throughout the world, and with the goal of raising 250 million within 10 years. If this model keeps going, because if young people believe in it, it works, and that's why that's why young people also can be and should be within the structure of the whole organization, because we somehow help in advising what people what young people personas are, what kind of people we want to target, and how we want to design the funding the engine model to look like more user friendly as well.
No, very cool, very interesting. And I think it true enough to your problem statement, a lot of brands do want to do good, and a lot of people who do good want the brand, honestly, and want the funding and the capital and the things that they need to get started. So there's a brilliant collaboration. And as we talk about your journey and as we kind of come full circle and wind down, you have obviously had a very global perspective. You've been working with individuals even in the beginning of your journey, all the way from halfway across the world, from Uganda to, as you mentioned, you spent some time going out there, traveling as well. You've been to Dubai, you've traveled Europe, now you're here in Southeast Asia, you're doing your masters in Beijing. You have a very global kind of outlook on the social impact world. You, again, even advise in some capacities to some of these governments. Why is it important to have that global exposure? Because a lot of people, they say, I can just double down on my work, I can just focus on my work. They go on holidays, of course, they do all of that, but they don't necessarily bring that, they don't form that global kind of perspective. So why is it important to form that perspective, and how do you think it informs the work that you do with the person you are today?
Yeah, it's first of all, the world is so beautiful that we need to get to know it.
For fun, that is the first reason, right?
And second, I think that the reason why certain things are very challenging to solve is there's a personal vision, is because probably we still didn't find the right way to do a certain thing, but we might find the answer in other places around the world.
Amazing. And I think, just to wind down, and final question for our audience, one of the things that I often talk to people about is why they be entrepreneurs in the first place. And I think, for me personally, entrepreneurship has always been more about what I'm learning about myself, as much as it is about, creating impact, and as much as it's about, I think business and career is like the third or fourth reason of why, I decided to be a social entrepreneur. And I just wanted to, to answer you that question yourself, in a sense. Do you feel that this journey that you're on, social impact, social entrepreneurship, has taught you anything about yourself and who you are as a person? And would you recommend it to our audience out there who are also looking for answers in their own lives?
I definitely recommend it.
Phew!
I suggest it. It definitely is part. Social entrepreneurship is a lifestyle for me. And the reason why I started is I really want to serve people. I want to serve the social cause, and what keeps me going. And I had a lot of times where I refocused, because I lost a bit of track on where I'm going. And what keeps me going right now, as we said, I might not know what exactly is my job position or what exactly I'm doing in the small picture, but in macro picture, I know that why I started. And what it taught me is that no matter how hard and challenging it's the environment, if you really believe in one thing deeply, because it's connected to your story, it's connected to someone else's story, you can do everything. And this applied, it helped me a lot in academics. I was not very good at academics in high school, but now I'll be better. It helped me to understand that if I really believe that this knowledge can help me in my mission as a human that is curious about the world and want to solve social challenges, then I'm much more motivated, much stronger, much more grounded. And this helped me as well in my personality as well. It made me more secure, more thoughtful, more slow. It is not a bad thing to be slow thinker, and it's interesting to have. And also in the relationship with your friends and parents as well, because you're able to communicate what you care about. It helped me to listen to people very well, because social issues is really about understanding the people, and helped me a lot with my friends and the parents. So it can be as little as your environment at home or in your city, or as large as being able to understand what is the background of other people in the policy field, right? You have a senior person that has a totally different life story as you, but you still try to understand why they're doing that, and how they're doing it, and what they're doing, because all the journey since 7-8 years ago, it was about understanding myself and how I understand people as well. Yeah, for sure. So if you're interested in learning your own way of dealing with the world and yourself, social entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship in general, it's the way to go, for sure.
I think that's a brilliant note to end on. And thank you so much for being on our show. Thank you so much for speaking to me and our audience. I think I speak for all of us that hearing from people like you make us a lot more confident to take the courage and take that step to do the things that we are passionate about, to pursue the paths that we often see are less taken, and to follow our hearts, for lack of better word. I think a lot of people now especially don't want to have a career just for the sake of having a career. They want to go out there, pursue, learn about the world, make a difference, whatever shape and form that takes us, wherever that takes us. And I think you exemplified that brilliantly. So thank you so much for being here. And I hope you had as much fun speaking to us as we did listening to you.
It was amazing. Thanks for hosting me, Harsha. It was amazing to be here.
All right. And with that, our episode of Changing Reality has come to a close. Thank you once again to everyone for tuning in. As always, we appreciate each and every single one of you. This has been Changing Reality. We'll see you again next round.
You're listening to Changing Reality. Changing Reality, where we bend reality all across the world. Only on WQHS Radio.